A sovereign business should improve the quality of your life, not consume it. So today I want to talk to you about something that sits beneath leadership and growth. I want to talk to you about quality of life, because the kind of business you build will always reflect the quality of life that you're living. Now, many people say they want a sovereign business, and even though sovereignty looks like it starts with revenue, it should ideally start with balance, getting clear, and your capacity. One of the simplest tools I use to teach this to my clients is the Wheel of Life. And today I want to share an example with you. So the Wheel of Life looks at the different areas that make up a full human life. And for you, this might be different from what I'm about to show you, in that we might have similarities or we might have what we call the different areas, but I'll use an average of 8 areas that can reference what makes up your whole life. So the wheel might look like this and be divided into the different areas you're trying to measure or gauge. So we have 8 sections here. So I'm going to fill in my 8 sections with first thing being health. Then I'm going to put relationships. Next one I'll put is personal growth. Then I'll put purpose. Here I'll put faith. This could be spirituality or faith. I'll use faith. And then I could name this environment works. And then the last one I'm going to insert here is my contribution. So health, meaning, obviously how well is my health doing is what I'm going to gauge. Relationships, how well are my relationships doing, whether it be personal relationships, work relationships, or whatever you're trying to gauge. Personal growth, the spaces left here are for me to gauge how well I'm doing. So let's say this is divided into 3 sections, so 33% of each side of my life. I might want to use percentage. I might just want to shade it in to have a visual representation, just so it helps me. So I do this exercise by, say, using colored pencils like this. Starting with personal growth. I'm big on personal growth. So I'm going to give myself something pretty big here. So this section, I'm coloring blue, represent how well I believe I'm doing with things that represent my personal growth. I love to learn. I'm very big on learning things that help me with self-awareness and looking at the honest truth of just my life in general. And so learning different tools and having a coach and support system that helps me grow myself as a person has been a big thing for me. So I'm giving myself that much on personal growth. And this could also just simply be 90% could be the representation of that. So you can use percentage, you can even use 0 to 10 and decide what that looks like for you on the chart. Next one for me is purpose. Regarding purpose, I feel I'm doing pretty well in living a life of purpose. So that could mean different things to us. For me personally, in my work and in my life, I'm trying to make sure that it all aligns in a way that represents my values and things that I believe that I'm here to do. Self on 85%, there's always room for growth. So I'm going to call this 85%. Faith, I will say for faith, maybe let's say I gauge it on 50%. So maybe I'm doing well with certain things, but in some other areas, I know that. So I'll say faith, I'm going to give 60%. It's not doing too badly. And for my finances, let's say 70%. My environment, for me, this might represent how I have made sure my environment is right for me. This could be based on social circles, culture, family, and even where I live, right, would matter. So our environment tends to play a big role. So whatever that represents for you, how is that doing? And then contribution. What's my contribution to the world, to my work, to what it is I decide contribution is, whether that be finances or your time and your service, right? So your contribution might be something important to you on the chart. And then my health. Okay, health is a big one at this age, I suppose, at any age. So how well am I doing with health? I'm really making a conscious effort. And then relationships. So I'm a big one for relationships. People I value in my life and making sure I'm becoming a better person for them and me, giving them time, not really about how much time, but the quality of the time is what I'm using to gauge this for myself. I may not have seen you for a whole year. When we do sit down, we're going to make up for it, and we are going to do so in ways that will fill us both. That's how I feel about how I'm doing with relationships. There you are. That's an example of you doing an exercise on just getting something that you can look at a glance and say, okay, you know what? Some areas need work. Some I'm doing pretty well at. Nothing's perfect, but I know I'm doing, so you now decide, where would I like to get to have something that's quite balanced, so that it helps you now say, for my health, I know I need to do more. And then I determine what that more looks like. What areas could I do better in regarding my health? And then you up that. And then, on the faith side, what are those areas that I feel I have a shortcoming in? Fill that in. Finances, if I want to get to 90% as like overall, to have something more balanced, I decide that's what the goal is. And then, at a glance, I now know, and I work on it so that I can come back to the chart again, maybe in another 3 months, 6 months, you decide, 1 year, to come and test yourself again or gauge it all again and see how well you're doing. So it just helps you. It's just a visual thing to help you use to make specific goals and then come back to later. A business at a certain stage should be growing without dependency. If the business cannot function without you being emotionally, mentally, and physically available at all times, then leadership becomes survival and not sovereignty. Sovereign leadership asks different questions. How does this business support my health and not drain it? How does it protect my relationships and not compete with them? How does it create space for thinking and not constant urgency? When your wheel is balanced, your leadership changes. You start deciding. You stop carrying everything alone. You begin designing systems, teams, and a rhythm. So the point is, a sovereign business does not require you to disappear from your life. It allows you to be present, to be rested, to be supported, to be human.